Jai. So now we're doing March lessons 3 and 4, which is the continuation of the process of creation and the cause of all causes. I think we're in chapter 5, the cause of all causes. Previously, in chapter 4, Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadev Goswami to describe more about this details about the construction and manifestation of the material cosmos. Sukadev Goswami, in his presentation, shifted the narration, and now he's explaining, he's narrating a conversation between Lord Brahma, who is the actual creator of the universe, engineer of the universe, and his son Narada. So we're picking up with further descriptions. One of the points that I wanted to make out about this particular section we'll be studying, in the second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, the purpose of the book is stated. It says, this Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. So I've been thinking of different analogies. If you went to a show where a magician was doing his different tricks, that's entertaining and everybody gets wrapped up into it. If you went home and you wanted to find out how the trick was done, there are many YouTube videos which reveal that. The question arises, do we really want to know how the trick was done? Because that ruins the entertainment element of it. Because every time you see that trick thereafter, you know how the trick was performed. So similarly, the highest truth is reality, distinguished from illusion. And this entire material cosmos, in one sense, is considered an illusion because it's temporary. And the real illusion manifests because the conditioned souls within that dimension think that they can enjoy while here in the temporary manifestation. But it's never a completely fulfilling experience. So it's like, and what's happening is that as we hear more and more details, how the illusion, how the complex, elaborate illusion is actually manifested and understand the details, then it changes our perception of actually what's taking place. So when it says that this Bhagavat Purana is understandable by those who are pure in heart, part of that purity of heart is understanding that we're not the enjoyers. And the more we realize the temporary nature and the details of how this world and cosmos is constructed, the better we can understand that reality. So now we'll read, starting midway through chapter 5, the cause of all causes, and Lord Brahma will describe more in detail. Let me bring up the screen. Okay, March 2021, lessons 3 and 4. I'll read the first one, and then Samapriya will conduct who reads thereafter. Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 5, text 22. After the incarnation of the first Purusha, Karnarava Sai Vishnu, the Mahatattva, or the principles of material creation, take place. And then time is manifested. And in the course of time, the three qualities appear. Nature means the three qualitative appearances. They transform into activities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kala, or time, is the synonym of nature and is the transformed manifestation of the principles of material creation. As such, Kala may be taken as the first cause of all creation. And by transformation of nature, different activities of the material world become visible. These activities may be taken up as the natural instinct of each and every living being, or even the inert objects. And after the manifestation of activities, there are different varieties of products and byproducts of the same nature. Originally, these are all due to the Supreme Lord. The Vedanta Sutras and the Bhagavatam thus begin with the absolute truth as the beginning of all creations. Janmadya asya yataha.
Do you want to say something about that?
Sure. A nice example is a person who's baking something, say a cake. Without time, it's very difficult to do such a thing. The first thing you do after of course, you have to heat up the oven. You have to assemble your ingredients, which is what we'll be reading about here, how the different ingredients of material creation are manifested and collected to create what we see and experience here. But time is the underlying force which continuously transforms everything within the cosmos. We know that there's even atomic time. It's down to the number of atoms that the sun travels over in any given space is how time is measured. So time is the first force within the material universe, which creates the relative experience of past, present, and future, which don't exist in the absolute reality of the spiritual world. So the first covering of illusion is the sense of past, present, and future, which indeed do manifest, but it's all part of the illusory manifestation of the temporary material creation.
Thank you. Karna, could you read next? And then after her, Nanda?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
About that verse you just read? It's about the time. In the spiritual world, there is no time. And yet we have the passage of time, daytime activities, noon activities, evening activities. Some are younger, some people are younger there, some are older, there's Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda who are older. So how do you explain that?
Anybody can help out. We also have the Astakaliya Lila, the Eightfold daily pastimes, which are eternal and take place during the Eightfold different passages of time, where it says in the Brahma Samhita that time is conspicuous by its absence and that not even a moment fades. They're all eternal, all the moments.
In the material world, time fills space. And it's not necessary. It's not necessary for time to fill space in the spiritual world. Nanda, help me out here.
Well, the only thing that I'm thinking of is in the material world, time degrades everything. Time I'm the destroyer of everything.
Good.
So it degrades everything. Like that's why we get wrinkles on our face, our hair turns gray, so many things, memory gets out the window, so many things. But in the spiritual world, even though the sun rises and there's morning activities and the sun sets and then there's the evening activities, it doesn't degrade. That's my paper thin understanding of it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. No, that was wonderful. There are some things that we can't understand in this realm, but we have to understand them by hearing. So this is until we're self-realized. This becomes more and more clear. But what was explained by Nanda and my husband it's a good beginning. Karna, can you?
Yeah.
You read and then Nanda.
Yes. Okay, 2:5:22. After the incarnation of the first Purusha, Karna Vyasi Vishnu. What is it? Karna.
I read that one. We're on 23 now.
Sorry.
Got it
Right.
on the screen.
Okay, material activities are caused by the Mahatattvas being agitated. At first, there is transformation of the modes of goodness and passion, and later, due to the mode of ignorance, matter, its knowledge, and different activities of material knowledge come into play. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Material creations of every description are more or less due to the development of the mode of passion, rajas. The Mahatattva is the principle of material creation, and when it is agitated by the will of the Supreme, at first the modes of passion and goodness are prominent, and afterwards the mode of passion, being generated in due course by material activities of different varieties, becomes prominent, and the living entities are thus involved more and more in ignorance. Brahma is the representative of the mode of passion, and Vishnu is the representative of the mode of goodness, while the mode of ignorance is represented by Lord Shiva, the father of material activities. Material nature is called the mother, and an initiator for materialistic life is the father, Lord Shiva. All creation by the living entities is therefore initiated by the mode of passion. With the advancement of the duration of life in a particular millennium, the different modes act by gradual development. In the age of Kali, when the mode of passion is most prominent, material activities of different varieties in the name of advancement of human civilization take place, and the living entities become more and more involved in forgetting their real identity, the spiritual nature.
This is a very complicated verse and shows the complicated web of material nature that we are all immersed in. This is very important to study and to understand. Can you say something about this, Karina, or can anyone quickly say something about?
It's the macrocosm. We were mostly dealing with the microcosm, but this is like the whole universal creation, material world.
Thank you. Nanda, can you read and comment on this if you like?
'24. The self-centered materialistic ego, thus being transformed into three features, becomes known as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance in three divisions. Namely, the powers that evolve matter, knowledge of material creations, and the intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Narda, you are quite competent to understand this. And it could say, Nanda, you are not competent to understand this. Okay, purport. Materialistic ego, or the sense of identification with matter, is grossly self-centered, devoid of clear knowledge of the existence of God. And this self-centered egoism of the materialistic living entities is the cause of their being conditioned by the other paraphernalia and continuing their bondage of material existence. The Lord, being situated in the heart of every individual living entity, knows very well the tendency of such conditioned souls in terms of past, present, and future. But the bewildered conditioned soul hardly can know him in his eternal form. By the will of the Lord, therefore, the impersonalist, even after knowing the Brahman and Paramatma features of the Lord, remains ignorant of his eternal personal feature as ever existent Narayan, transcendental to all material creation. The cause of such gross ignorance is constant engagement by the materialistic man in the matter of artificially increasing material demands. To realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to purify the materialistic senses by devotional service. Wow.
I have a question for you. This self-centeredness is the cause of our conditioning in this world. Can you comment on that?
Well, what I thought of in that sense, I thought of the opposite of how a Vaishnava is compassionate. And they're compassionate. Why? Because they understand they're not self-centered, they're Krishna-centered. And therefore, they realize their position in relation to the Lord, and they want other people to have that opportunity too. So, back to exactly what's being said, how the ego, the self-centered ego, actually, I don't exactly know where it came up on the, yeah, thank you. The materialistic ego, that first sentence that starts off, materialistic ego, or the sense of identification with matter, is grossly self-centered, devoid of clear knowledge of the existence of God. Materialistic ego means I'm thinking that I'm the one that's supposed to be happy by my activities, and therefore I'm doing everything to make myself happy. And somehow, even though it's not working out very favorably, still I'm obstinately trying to become happy, and therefore continually entangling myself in those modes of passion, ignorance, and goodness, and getting entangled, after birth.
All right.
Amazing.
Wow. Thank you.
One-
Sham
one-
Govinda.
one-
Oh, Pati.
one of the challenges that I also find, where it says materialistic ego is self-centered, is seeing it in myself and others. Nanda was saying Vaishnavas are not self-centered. Can't say that about myself, and really can't say it about others from my perception. We're constantly working on it. Even Lord Brahma, who's speaking these verses, sometimes feels humbled because we're all covered by this extremely self-centered concept and selfishness. So just wanted to accentuate that.
But the good thing is that by reading this, and
Yeah.
Krishna knows our problem, and he's telling us how to get out of it. And but as reading these verses, we are seeing how deeply enmeshed we are in the material energy. Every I is dotted. Every aspect of material nature is completely here to bind us in. And we have to know this before we can get out of it. We have to know that we are absolutely entangled. Anyway, Sham Govinda, are you still here? Are you here? Because I saw his name.
Yes, Mataji, I'm here.
Could you read this next passage, please?
25. From the darkness of false ego, the first of the 5 elements, namely the sky, is generated. Its subtle form is the quality of sound, exactly as the seer is in relationship with the seen. Purport. Factually, save and accept the Lord, no one can be called the enjoyer, but the living entity falsely desires to become the enjoyer. This is the origin of false ego. When the bewildered living being desires this, the shadow elements are generated by the will of the Lord, and the living entities are allowed to run after them as after a phantasmagoria.
Should he continue?
It's up to you, Sama.
Yeah, continue.
The sound is the representation of the actual object, as the sound produced speaking of the object gives an idea of the description of the object. Therefore, sound is the subtle characteristic of the object. Similarly, sound representation of the Lord in terms of his characteristics is the complete form of the Lord, as was seen by Vasudev and Maharaj Dasara, the fathers of Lord Krishna and Lord Ram. The sound representation of the Lord is non-different from the Lord himself, because the Lord and his representation in sound are absolute knowledge. Lord Chaitanya has instructed us that in the holy name of the Lord, as sound representation of the Lord, all the potencies of the Lord are invested. Thus one can immediately enjoy the association of the Lord by the pure vibration of the sound representation of his holy name, and the concept of the Lord is immediately manifest before the pure devotee. A pure devotee, therefore, is not aloof from the Lord even for a moment. The holy name of the Lord, as recommended in the Shastra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, may therefore be constantly chanted by the devotee aspiring to be constantly in touch with the Supreme Lord. One who is thus able to associate with the Lord is sure to be delivered from the darkness of the created world, which is a product of false ego. Tas
Thank,
Nasana Jyotirgama.
thank you. That is the answer to all our problems right there, perfectly stated by Srila Prabhupada. But now, can you comment on that? Can you tell me something about that too? Sham Govinda.
I'll just try. I mean, it's interesting that I've heard it before, that sound is the beginning of, well, it's basically where everything kind of emanates from, because there was nothing when Lord Brahma was in the universe. It was pitch black. And then he heard tapasya or tapas. And so basically everything is revealed to him through sound. And so we're hearing that that same concept is also there in the material manifestation. And basically we heard also through the purport that the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world, because there was lots of talk of the shadow. This is the shadow place of enjoyment. This is the shadow place to be the Lord. And so sound relates to the false ego or ether.
Okay, tell me about the transcendental sound. And Bhadra, you're next to speak and read. Tell me about the transcendental sound. That's the solution. That's what this is like the door is opening.
The transcendental sound, the purport clearly says that it encompasses everything, all the Lord's qualities. And so that the hearer can know the object by addicting themselves to that sound, which the purport made clear in the beginning.
Okay, well, thank you. The basic premise is that the holy name is the sound that will purify us all. Okay, Bhadra, could you read the next?
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Okay, but my husband just informed me that I can't keep on, we have to move it along. But yes, Bhadra, ask your question and then read.
Okay. In the middle, it said that the similarly sound representatives of the Lord in terms of his characteristic is the complete form of the Lord, as was seen by Vasudeva and Maharaj Dasratha, the father of Lord Krishna and Lord Ram. Can someone clarify that? What was that? I don't follow that.
Similarly in some representation. Pati, you want to take that?
No, it also, I don't have an understanding either. Why they're given examples of people that experience the Lord through sound. Certainly they experience them a lot more than just sound.
Well, Krishna is the father of Vasudeva is the father of Krishna, Hare Krishna, and Dasarath is the father of Ram. So they had perfect experience of these two different forms of the Lord, which are also represented in sound, in the sound of their name. That's my understanding of that.
Okay.
Bhadra, do you want to continue reading now?
Yeah, if you want me to.
Yes, please.
Okay. To text 26 to 29. Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch. And by previous succession, the air is also full of sound and the basic principles of duration of life, sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time and nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since the fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water full of juice and taste. As previously, it also has form and touch and is also full of sound. And the water being transferred from the all variegatedness of on earth appears odorous and as previously becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form respectively.
Sama, we have a chart coming up which will kind of visually explain all these things.
Okay.
So rather than going over each verse individually and trying to dissect it, let's go along and then dissect it when we get to the chart.
Okay. Is Badru going to read this purport?
That's up to you.
if you want me to.
Yeah.
Okay. The whole process of creation is an act of gradual evolution and development from one. I cannot see on my screen here the last parts, because how can you all go up? I don't know. This is on my
Maybe somebody else who can see it can read, Sama.
Okay. Gopapatni, can you read, please?
Milk search here.
Are you there, Gop?
I'm trying to figure out where we were.
Okay. It says purport, the whole process of creation isn't it?
Okay, Jack. The whole process of creation is an act of gradual evolution and development from one element to another, reaching up to the variegatedness of the earth as so many trees, plants, mountains, rivers, reptiles, birds, animals, and varieties of human beings. The quality of sense perception is also evolutionary, namely generated from sound, then touch, and then from touch to form. Taste and odor are also generated along with the gradual development of sky, air, fire, water, and earth. They are all mutually the cause and effect of one another. But the original cause is the Lord himself in plenary portion, as Mahavishnu, lying in the causal water of the Mahatattva. The qualities of sense perception are fully represented in the earth, and they are manifested in other elements to the lesser extent. In the sky, there is sound only, whereas in the air, there are sound and touch. In the fire, there are sound, touch, and shape. And in the water, there is taste also, along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape. In the earth, however, there are the above mentioned qualities with an extra development of odor also. Therefore, on the earth, there is a full display of variegatedness of life, which is originally started with the basic principle of air. Diseases of the body take place due to derangement of air within the earthly body of the living being. Mental diseases result from special derangement of the air within the body, and as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order so that diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises.
Thank you, Gopa.
How about that? We should all be doing yoga then, huh?
Okay. Well, we are doing yoga, right? Bhakti yoga. Okay. Narayan, would you like to read?
Yes, I can. From the mode of goodness, the mind is generated and becomes manifest, and also the 10 demigods controlling the bodily movements. Such demigods are known as the controller of directions, the controller of air, the sun god, the father of Daksha Prajapati, the Ashwin Kumaras, the fire god, the king of heaven, the worshipable deity in heaven, the chief of the Adityas, and Brahmaji, the Prajapati, all come into existence. Purport. Vaikarki is the neutral stage of creation, and Tejas is the initiative of creation, while Tamas is the final display of material creation under the spell of the darkness of ignorance. Human civilization is meant for purifying the senses, and objects of sense satisfaction should be supplied as such as absolutely required, but not for aggravating artificial sensory needs. Food, shelter, defense, and sense gratification are all needs in material existence. Otherwise, in his pure, uncontaminated state of original life, The living entity has no such needs. The needs are therefore artificial, and is in the pure state of life, there are no such needs. As such, increasing the artificial needs as is the standard of material civilization, or advancing the economic development of human society, is a sort of engagement in darkness without knowledge. By such engagement, human energy is spoiled, because human energy is primarily meant for purifying the senses in order to engage them in satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord. The standard of human civilization should be to cure the disease of sense gratification, and one can do this simply by becoming an agent for satisfying the spiritual senses of the Lord.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Becoming an agent of the spiritual senses of the Lord, satisfying the spiritual senses of the Lord. That's pretty much Bhakti Yoga right there. Now we're going to have Pritam Day read text. Oh, it's not finished. We still have some more. Pritam, why don't you read this and then also continue on to the next verse.
Why don't we have somebody else read this purport and then Pritam?
Okay, Mohit, can you read? Are you there, Mohit?
Yes.
Okay, my darling.
In the diseased condition of the senses, there is too much engagement of the senses and increasing material needs. When one comes to see the disadvantage of aggravating the sense activities, one is called a jnani. And when one tries to stop the activities of the senses by the practices of yogi principles, he's called a yogi. But when one is fully aware of the transcendental senses of the Lord and tries to satisfy his senses, one is called a devotee of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord do not try to deny the senses of the Lord, nor do they artificially stop the actions of the senses, but they do voluntarily engage the purified senses in the service of the master of the senses, as was done by Arjun, thereby easily attaining the perfection of satisfying the Lord, the ultimate goal of all perfection.
There you go. Perfect satisfaction agent for satisfying the senses of the Lord. Now, Pritam is going to read this verse and also make a presentation. He has created a chart, which I think we'll all appreciate. So you take over now, Pritam.
Who's ever, Vaishnavi, did Vaishnavi come?
Yeah,
I'm here.
Vaishnavi, can you give Pritam Day facility to share his screen so that he can use his cursor to go over his chart when it comes up?
Yeah, he can. It's already
Thank you.
there.
Okay.
Okay, so let me first read this verse in purport. Text 31. By further transformation of the mode of passion, the sense organs like the ear, skin, nose, eyes, tongue, mouth, hands, genitals, legs, and the outlet for evacuating, together with intelligence and living energy, are all generated. Purport. The living condition in material existence depends more or less on one's intelligence and powerful living energy. Intelligence to counteract the hard struggle for existence is assisted by the senses for acquiring knowledge, and the living energy maintains himself by manipulating the active organs like the hands and legs. But on the whole, the struggle for existence is an exertion of the mode of passion. Therefore, all the sense organs headed by intelligence and the living energy, prana, are different products and byproducts of the second mode of nature called passion. This mode of passion, however, is the product of the air element as described above, as described before. Do you have any more? Okay.
Go on.
Okay, so this is a chart that I created just to basically summarize the whole process of creation. In text 3, Narad Muni asks Lord Brahma the process of creation. And I found this chapter to be very technically very deep. So I thought maybe a chart like presentation would really help us in understanding the whole process of creation. So in the very beginning, we have Mahavishnu, also called Karanodaksha Vishnu. He's an expansion of Narayan. he's the first Purusha avatar. He sets the material creation in process and by glancing over the material nature. So at first you have Kala, the time that gets manifested.
What happened?
I don't know.
Are you?
Become activated.
Can you go back like a minute or so? We lost you.
Oh, really? Okay, sorry about that. So let me start all over again.
No,
So
Preacham,
you're basically covers the process of creation.
Preacham, we followed you up to Karna
Yes.
Daksha Vishnu and the manifestation of time, then you cut out.
Also, this
Okay,
is
sorry
try to make this a summary if you can. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, perfect. I'll keep it short. And so the Kala, the time becomes active, and then the jivas, basically their karma and their swabhava, which is their nature, becomes active. So in the beginning, the material nature, the principle of material creation is in an unmanifested state, is in dormant state, but because of Mahavishnu's glance, it becomes active and becomes Mahatattva. But this Mahatattva initially contains, in principle, contains three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But initially, only goodness and passions become really active, right? And further on, that transformation, this state further transforms into ahankara, or false ego, which is basically in the mode of ignorance. This further transforms into three main, I would say three different areas. The transformation of ahankara and goodness results in jnana shakti, and the transformation of passion results in kriya shakti, and the transformation of ignorance results in dravya shakti. This dravya shakti then manifests as the five gross elements, which is ether, air, fire, water, and earth. They are also called adibhuta. They are subtle manifestations, I'll call the tanmatras, and they are manifested as sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. And then we also have the kriya shaktis become manifested as the senses, and then we have the presiding deities, which are the adidaiva. They are manifested as the devatas or digdeva, or the presiding deities, as you call them, or demigods, right? So this is a transformation. Now in the gross elements, as we have learned, each stage, each element contains the characteristics of the previous element. So we have air, which has sound and touch. From the ether has sound, air has touch, fire has form, water has taste, and earth has smell. But each element retains the characteristics of the previous element. So air retains the characteristic of sound and its own characteristic, which is touch. Similarly, fire retains its own characteristic of form and the previous two, touch and sound. And in this way, it continues until the earth, which has all the elements, all the five gross subtle elements, or the senses, as you call it. So these are the knowledge acquiring senses: ear, skin, eyes, tongue, and nose. And then we have the five working senses: hands, feet, voice, anus, and genitals, with their own presiding deities. So this in essence is the I would say the whole process of creation, and it gets repeated every time this cosmic manifestation comes into creation. And at the time of annihilation, this whole cycle continues, but in reverse order. So first, your senses, the gross senses goes back into Mahavishnu, and then the subtle elements, and then the three modes of material nature, the Mahatatma, the Pradhan, and back to Mahavishnu. So this cycle continues every 1,000 years when the universes pour out from Mahavishnu's body, and then he enters into each of them as Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So I thought this, in essence, would be a very good way to memorize or understand the whole process of creation.
Yes, thank you very much for doing that. Thank you for a nice explanation. Everybody can, by seeing it, like you mentioned in your forum post, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So this gives us a basic, if you follow this, then you understand the basic construction. It's like a blueprint, like a blueprint of a building, shows all the different details. This shows how creation comes about.
Yeah,
Is
also,
it possible?
I'm
Is
sorry.
it
Go ahead,
possible
what?
for him to share this with us?
It's in the forums under his forum post. It's in the course materials under whichever forum was it. Do you remember the number? Which one it was? Pritam, 5?
3.3.
3.3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's also wonderful that Srila Prabhupada said that this Krishna consciousness is a science. And this presentation is actually very scientific. And another wonderful thing is that everyone has a different inclination, which also we are going to read in these verses, that everyone has different inclination. And this is a very wonderful manifestation of Pritam's inclination to describe things scientifically and with authority. Thank you very much. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So we go on to the next, Madhurya Leela, would you read next? And then Bhadra, you can try again to see if your screen will cover the, you can read it from your screen.
Okay, 2.5.32. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. Prabhupada's purport. The different types of bodily construction of the living entities are exactly like different types of motor cars manufactured by assembling the allied motor parts. When the car is ready, the driver sits in the car and moves it as he desires. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 1861. The living entity is as if seated on the machine of the body, and the car of the body is moving by the control of the material nature, just as the railway trains are moving under the direction of the controller. Every living entity is a spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Being, and by the kindness of the Lord, for the Father is so kind to his sons, the individual living beings are given a little freedom to act according to their will, to lord it over the material nature. Just as a father gives some playthings to the crying child to satisfy him, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord to allow the bewildered living entities of the Lord to lord it over things as they desire, although under the control of the agent of the Lord.
This example up here that Srila Prabhupada gives is really nice about the car. He says the different types of bodily construction of the living entities are exactly like different types of motor cars manufactured by assembling the allied motored parts. When the car is ready, the driver sits in the car and moves it as he desires. So this image is corresponding to what Pritam Day was showing, only it's a little more focused on the bodily parts. Ether creates, sound is the corresponding characteristic of ether, and the ear exists, and hearing, the sense of hearing. Now, just as with a car, you take one part and then you add it to what's already there to become the second part, but the first part still exists in it. So in air, the quality of sound is still there. We can experience this. You hear the air, but you also can feel it and touch it. So the sense of touch is added to that element. With the modes of nature, the time element, and that continuing transformation, the next element that manifests is fire. And again, sound is included in fire. We've all experienced that. Touch is experienced in fire, but you can also see it. With air, you can't really see it. And with ether, you can't feel it. So all these things are increasing as the manifestation and the modes of material nature and time, just like baking the cake, the flour and the water and the butter and the sugar are all transforming due to the heat and due to time into what will become a cake. In water, there's sound, there's touch, you can see it, there's form, but there's also taste. And in earth, all 5 elements are there. There's sound, there's touch, there's form, there's taste, and there's odor. So we can see how, practically speaking, how this whole thing is manifesting through these different descriptions by the engineer, Lord Brahma.
Okay, thank you. Bhadra, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, please read.
Can I read?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Text 33. Thus, when all this became assembled by force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and the secondary causes of the creation. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly mentioned that the Supreme Personality of Godhead exerts his different energies in the creation. It is not that he himself is transformed into material creations. He expands himself by his different energies as well as by his plenary portions. In a corner of the spiritual sky of the Brahmajyoti, a spiritual cloud sometimes appears, and the covered portion is called Mahatattva. The Lord then, by his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, lies down within the water of the Mahatattva, and the water is called the causal ocean, Karana Jal. While Mahavishnu sleeps within the causal ocean, innumerable universes are generated along with his being. These universes are floating, and they are scattered all over the causal ocean. They stay only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu. In each and every universal globe, the same Mahavishnu enters again as Garbhodaksa Vishnu and lies there on the serpent-like Shesh incarnation. From his navel sprouts a lotus stem, and on the lotus Brahma, the Lord of the universe, is born. Brahma creates all forms of living beings of different shapes in terms of different desires within the universe. He also creates the sun, moon, and other demigods. That's interesting.
Yeah, this is a full description of the universe. Thank you, Bhadraji. Manvantara, can you continue reading?
Unmute.
Unmute Manvantara.
Text 34. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Thus all the universes remain thousands of
Eons.
eons within the water, the casual ocean, and the Lord of living beings entering in each of them caused them to be fully animated. Purport. The Lord as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu or Hiranyagarbha Supersoul enters into each and every universe and causes it to be animated by begetting the living entities within the womb of the material nature, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 3. After each annihilation of the material creation, all the living entities are merged within the body of the Lord. And after the creation, they are again impregnated within the material energy. In material existence, therefore, the material energy is seemingly the mother of the living entities, and the Lord is the father. When, however, the animation takes place, the living entities revive their own natural activities under the spell of time and energy, and thus the varieties of living beings are manifested. The Lord, therefore, is ultimately the cause of all animation in the material world.
Thank you. Can I ask one question? Patti, is that allowed now?
Sure.
Just one question. Manvantara, or if you can answer this, what does it mean? Could you put that back for a second, please? The words, the Lord, whenever the animation is living at their own nature. What does it mean that they resume the activities of their own nature? Can anyone talk about that? The living entities revive their own natural activities under the spell of time and energy. Manvantari, can you comment on that?
I don't know, but I'm just curious if it has anything to do with our natural ras or affiliation that we have with Krishna in terms of service attitude and mindfulness, but I don't know.
That would be great. That would be perfect, but actually, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Patti, that's actually what you said, Mavantara, is what we're seeking. But this, I think this has to do with our karma and our inclinations from previous births in this material world. And when we again appear, those activities become manifest due to our desires in the
Yes,
material world.
you can tell because it says here, under the spell of time and energy. If it was the original nature of the living entity being manifested, it wouldn't accentuate or talk about that. The original living entity is not under the spell of time or energy. He's completely liberated and freed. So what happens is that those inclinations of the living entity that have been developed by its karma manifest again at the time of creation.
And the way to, what we can do, and that's what we're learning here, is to engage in spiritual activities, to engage in devotional service, so that our eternal natural inclination to serve Krishna will become manifest. Thank you. Okay, now, Ian, would you like to read? Uh-oh, now what now?
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. You better speak a little louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's very far away. Put the mic closer.
Okay.
Maybe you should
Better now?
put. All right, do the best you can.
Okay.
Everyone listen up.
Text 35 to 36.
Oh, that's good.
The Lord Mahavishnu, or the lion we call the ocean, came out of it. And dividing himself as Hiranyagarbha, he entered into his universe and assumed the Virat Rupa with thousands of legs, arms, mouths, heads, etc. Great philosophers imagined that the complete planetary systems in the universe are displays of the different upper and lower limbs of the universal body of the Lord. Spoke. The word Kalpayanti, or imagine, is significant. The direct universal form of the absolute is an imagination of the speculative philosophers who are unable to adjust to the eternal two-handed form of Lord Shri Krishna. Although the universal form as imagined by the great philosophers is one of the features of the Lord, it is more or less imaginary. It is said that the 7 upper planetary systems are situated above the waist of the universal form, whereas the lower planetary systems are situated below his waist. The idea impressed herein is that the Super Lord is conscious of every part of his body, and nowhere in the creation is there anything beyond his control.
Thank you. Does anybody know what form of the Lord is present so that he can be aware of every part of his creation, every part of himself? What's that form of the Lord? This is easy. Come on, he's in your heart.
Karna Dakshai.
Karma.
Karna Dakshai Vishnu. Paramatma.
Parma, right. Very good. Thank you. Patti, did you want to say something about this verse, or did anybody else before we move on?
No.
Yes. Okay. So thank you, Madhurya and Ian. And now Radha Krishna, will you read and then Ekadasi?
Yes. Is 2:537. The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, the Vaisyas his thighs, and the Shudras are born of his legs. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Brahmanas, or the intelligent class, must be very expert in performing such sacrifices, and the subordinate classes must join in such sacrifices. To speak for the Supreme Lord means to glorify the Lord by means of propagating the knowledge of the Lord as it is, broadcasting the factual nature of the Lord and the factual position of all other parts of the whole body. The Brahmanas, therefore, are required to know the Vedas, or the ultimate source of knowledge. The intelligent class of men, the Brahmanas, are therefore specially responsible for broadcasting this knowledge of a relationship with the Lord and the leading the general mass of the people to the right path. The administrative class is meant for protecting the living beings so that they can serve this purpose. The mercantile class is meant for producing food grains and distributing them to the complete human society so that the whole population is given a chance to live comfortably and discharge the duties of the human life. The mercantile class is also required to give protection to the cows in order to get sufficient milk and milk products, which alone can give the proper health and intelligence to maintain a civilization perfectly meant for knowledge of the ultimate truth. And the laborer class, who are neither intelligent nor powerful, can help by physical services to the other higher classes and thus benefited by their cooperation. Therefore, the universe is a complete unit in relationship with the Lord. And without this relationship with the Lord, the whole human society is disturbed and is without any peace and prosperity.
Thank you. This
One-
is a, go on,
uh,
Patsy.
One of the things that wasn't really
Yeah.
mentioned in relationship to these parts of the universal body is how they also relate to the modes of material nature. You may remember at the beginning of this description how the materialistic ego is transformed into 3 different modes, then those modes interact with the different elements. So in this particular portion, this means that the Sudra class of people are more or less governed by the ignorant mode, then the passionate mode, then the passionate mode again with a little goodness, and then finally the mode of goodness. So this shows how human society is also populated. The number of intellectuals, mode of goodness people is far less than the Sudra community, which is the laborer class governed by the modes of ignorance in their elements, in their bodily construction, and in their intelligence. And the reason I put this in is because nowadays in Kali Yuga, we read in the first canto toward the end with the cursing of Parikshit, just prior to that in the descriptions of his reign as emperor, how in Kali Yuga, the Sudras become more prominent in leadership roles. So we can see how the whole world in our world today is disturbed because these people who are governing are actually ruled by the modes of passion and mostly ignorance, and they're administrators rather than taking the help and advice of the intellectuals and the Brahmins and those in the mode of goodness. So in this age, this is what's manifesting, but in the whole universe is described as this body of the Lord. Just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Another important point, we can see that nothing is really by chance. Everything, there's a modern philosophy that, it's all by chance and people don't like even the sound of the word absolute truth. There's nothing by chance. Everything is completely ordained and created by the Lord specifically. Even our karma is not by chance. But simultaneously to hearing all of this, we are given a system, an organized system, how we can extricate ourselves from this complete enmeshedness of the material world. And we are in a web of material nature, very, very scrutinizingly put together. It's a serious matter, and that's why we're hearing Bhagavatam, and that's why we chant Hare Krishna to untangle ourselves. So, Kadasi, are you with us still? Can you read?
Yes.
Okay, and then Aesop, you get ready after her. Go on.
The lower planetary systems up to the limit of the earthly stratum are said to be situated in his legs. The middle planetary systems, beginning from Bhuvarloka, are situated in his navel, and the still higher planetary systems, occupied by the demigods and highly cultured sages and saints, are situated in the chest of the Supreme Lord. 2539. From the forefront of the chest up to the neck of the universal form of the Lord, are situated the planetary systems named Janalok and Tapalok, whereas Satyalok, the topmost planetary system, is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planets, however, are eternal. Purport. The Brahmaloka mentioned here is not the same as the Satyaloka planetary system. This Brahmaloka is eternal, whereas the Satyaloka planetary system is not eternal. And to distinguish between the two, the adjective Sanatan has been used in this case. Whenever the Lord incarnates, he does so in his full internal potency, Atma Maya, and less intelligent persons mistake him to be one of the material creations. Srila Sridhar Swami, therefore, rightly commenting on this verse, says that the Brahmaloka mentioned here is Vaikuntha, the kingdom of God, which is Sanatan or eternal, and is therefore not exactly like the material creations described above. The Virat, universal form of the Lord, is an imagination for the material world. It has nothing to do with the spiritual world or the kingdom of God.
Thank you. Is that clear to everyone? As clear
I
as we
missed
can
the-
have it.
I missed the bottom. Only by, oh, there was a line on the bottom.
No, that was the next clip.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to say something else about that verse, the Kadasi?
No, that's okay.
Okay. Then we have Vaishnavi and
No,
then
Aesop.
No,
You
Aesop,
said-
sorry. Aesop and Vaishnavi and Faye. Then I hope we have enough for everybody. Okay. Aesop, can you read, please? Are you
Unmute.
there? I
Can't
can't
hear
hear
you.
you.
I did not appreciate that. I thought it had more to do like with the song and stuff.
Am I reading or is
Yes.
Vaishnavi reading? Okay.
You're reading.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:5 verses 40 to 41. My dear son Narada, know from me there are 7 lower planetary systems out of the total 14. The first planetary system, known as Atala, is situated on the waist. The second, Vitala, is situated on the thighs. The third, Sutala, on the knees. The fourth, Talatala, on the shanks. The fifth, Mahatala, on the ankles. The sixth, Rasatala, on the upper portion of the feet. And the seventh, Patala, on the soles of the feet. Thus, the Virat form of the Lord is full of all planetary systems. Purport. There are innumerable universes beyond the one in which we are put, and all these material universes cover only an insignificant portion of the spiritual sky, which is described above as Sanatana Brahmaloka. Beginning from Satyaloka, the topmost planet of the universe, situated just below the eternal Brahmaloka, as described above, all the planets are material, and one's situation in any of the many material planets is still subject to the laws of material nature, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. But one can get complete liberation from the above-mentioned material pangs when one enters into the eternal Brahmaloka Sanatana atmosphere, the kingdom of God. Only by attainment of a service attitude in the transcendental position can one enter into the kingdom of Godhead.
That's a perfect answer right there. Vaishnavi, why don't you read this last verse? And Faye, if you're still here, if you'd like to say something about the meaning of this section. we would like to hear from you.
Okay, so Srimad Bhagavatam 2.5.42. Others may divide the whole planetary system into three divisions, namely the lower planetary system on the legs up to the earth, the middle planetary systems on the navel, and the upper planetary systems, Swarloka, from the chest to the head of the Supreme Personality. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, 5th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Cause of All Causes.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. What, Faye, would you like to say something about these verses? And if anybody else, we have 1 or 2 minutes, we can have a little discussion if anybody would like to bring up something. But let's hear from Faye. And then Vajra. Faye?
Hi, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
One of the things that I found interesting in this particular section is hit me by looking at those charts, top down. If you think of ether being the finest of the fine, all the way down, becoming more and more and more dense when you get to earth. When you look at the next illustration that we had of the Brahmins going all the way down to Sudra, the support, it's almost as if this fine going down to low. And in the third section, we were looking at the different locations of the planetary systems applied to the universal form of the Lord. From its head, here's such and such a system, his shoulders, his feet, going all the way down again. And I was wondering, if you think of Kali Yuga in particular, things have become inverted. The bottom has become the top, so to speak.
Exactly.
As we were learning in the first canto about this emergence of the Sudra that was beating the cow and the bull, if we recall that. All of these things, when you look at the beautiful whole of it, it's comforting to me to know that eventually all of this is going to be wound back up again, back into Vishnu once more, come all the way back. It's reeled back in. And he's so merciful that when all of this unwinds one more time, here we get a chance to start again with that sense of material nature where we left off, that karma. But the benefit of being Krishna conscious, no matter where we leave off in all of this, that deposit, if you will, of gold in Krishna consciousness unfolds with us one more time. It's always with us. So it's sort of a overview of what's going on, where we're going. I don't lose hope or faith because I know it's going to roll back up again, but that bank account, that Krishna consciousness, that effort towards Krishna, that's always going to be with me.
Good for you. That is very good. Thank you. And Faye has been studying these books for many years. We've all been studying together, and you really have incorporated a wonderful mentality of Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. Vajra, did you have something to say?
Question.
Oh. Here we go with Vajra's question.
First of all, Preetam, thank you for that nice chart. It is nicely done. Thank you. This when it says the universal form imaginary, what is that means? Is that means the Krishna sword in his mouth to Mother Jashoda form is the whole universe, and at the same time when Krishna sword universal form, when it went to the to the Santi Dut as a peacemaker in his soul. Someone can enlighten, please? I don't follow it.
I could say one thing, and then probably others can say better, but this is a Chintabeta Veda Tattva. The Lord is, it's an illusory thing. It is certainly, we spent a lot of time discussing the universal form in the previous chapters. And so it's an illusory thing, but for the impersonalists, so they can understand the Lord as a person, because they can't really understand many people can't understand that God is a person. They think that's because their familiarity with people is that everyone's fallible, but this person, God, he's infallible. So I think that it's Chinta Beta Beta Tattva means the same and different at the same time. That what do you think, Patti?
I think it also the differentiation between the two, the Virat Rupa and all the other forms of the Lord that we hear about in the spiritual sky, has different expansions. Those are all eternal. This manifestation in the Virat Rupa, by definition, because it's part of the material nature, has to be temporary. But we know that it does exist because it's shown very many times. And also, he told Arjuna that I'll give you divine eyes by which you can see this form. He actually empowered Arjuna to see it, and then Arjuna described it. So obviously there's something there, a form of the Lord that does exist, but it's temporary. It can only be seen by a few, those who are qualified and given the intelligence and the vision to see it. But let us read this one purport again, just to kind of go over that concept. It says here, the word kapalayanti, or imagine, is significant. The Virat universal form of the absolute is an imagination of the speculative philosophers who are unable to adjust to the eternal two-handed form of Lord Sri Krishna. Although the universal form, as imagined by the great philosophers, is one of the features of the Lord, it is more or less imaginary. It is said that the 7 upper planetary systems are situated above the waist of the universal form, whereas the lower planetary systems are situated below the waist. And then this was, we italicized this. The idea impressed herein is that the Supreme Lord is conscious of every part of his body, and nowhere in the creation is there anything beyond his control. So Chinta Beta Beta is one way to understand it, and then this is another subheading to that description. Anyone else has anything?
Well, also remember, we said this is the Paramatma feature of the Lord. This is the
Paramatma feature. How is it Paramatma?
Well, because he's the fact that he's aware of everything and all over the universe. That is the Paramatma feature. We shouldn't think that Krishna is not aware of everything. He's aware of everything that I'm going through and you're going through and the whole creation. He's aware of everything. This shows how every one of us has a relationship with him. And that's really important to know, because you would think he has so many things to do. How is he thinking of me? But he has created you and he is thinking of you. You know, he wants you to exchange. I was having a discussion the other day with someone about the rasa dance. You know, what is the rasa dance? And one aspect of the rasa dance is that Krishna wants to dance with each soul. Prabhupada, when he came to America, he said, my Lord, please make me dance as you like. Because that is our relationship with Krishna, that we're dancing. We're going through our own individual lives, seeing everything in relation to Krishna. And that's the rasa dance.
Thank you. Okay, this is not related. This question is not related to 2 days, but until next Saturday when we meet before, how many verses, please?
Okay, hold it. Let me look it up. Okay, we're from text 2:6. We start a new chapter. Purusha Shukta confirmed. Chapter 6, texts 1 through 22.
Thank you.
Will be the next week.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. If Pati, you want to close?
Jai. All right, thank you again, Hare Krishna. If you have any
Hare
questions,
Krishna.
Jai, have any questions or comments, we're always online. Jai, Hare Krishna, all glories to the
Jai, glories
Vaishnavas,
to
all glories
Srila
to Srila
Prabhupada.
Bhagavatam, Srila
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna, Hare
Vanchakalpa Tirthaschat, Kripa Sindhu,
Vaishnavibhyo
Titanam
Namo
Bhavanabhyo,
Namaha.
Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.